Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2. In episode 1, Alex and I introduced ourselves. You have an understanding of who we are, how we came up with Intentional Household, and what the background was behind creating that. In episode 2, we are going to discuss what it means to be living with intention. Alex, can you break down for everyone what it means to be living with intention?
I do feel that, Laura, you live with intention every day, and it's just something that you naturally do. It goes back to what we were talking about last episode is you're not willing to suffer. You want to delegate out things that you don't want to do so you can live in the moment, um, both physically and mentally being there. That is something that I've struggled with. Again, I've mentioned that I've spent a lot of money and time through various coaching programs because society and the world isn't going to allow you to live with intentionality. So, what's intentionality? Well, we have young children. When I'm with my children, I don't want to be thinking about other things. I want to be in the moment, enjoying that moment and focused on that moment with the child, whether it's putting Lego together or breaking out into a spontaneous dance to a Wiggles song or what's
Building
that?
a fort.
Building a fort for the kids, and having that creative space to do different designs with the fort or with the Lego or music club kids. Breaking out to dance and music club kids. Those various things. Because if I have a weight of other things on my mind, I'm not able to live in that spontaneous moment. I'm going to be maybe physically there, but I'm not able to mentally be there. And then if I'm not mentally there, then I'm not able to enjoy, appreciate that moment that will never come back again. Because those moments are fleeting. There's a finite amount of time with those moments when your child is 3 years old, when your child is 5 years old, when your child is 7 years old, and they're constantly evolving and changing. Having 3 kids, we see the constant changing and evolution of those children. So living with intentionality, whether it's with the children or let's say you're with friends at a social event and if you're not living intentionally, you're not able to have engaging conversations with them. If you're not intentional with your friends or your family, you're also not able to have genuine gratitude with them. So the idea of gratitude and being able to help them with whatever they need help with, because your own cup is full of draining tasks is just pulling your life force away from what you genuinely want to do. So living with intentionality is being in the moment of whatever you're doing with, again, friends, family, social situations, that you can really give the best version of yourself for whatever you're showing up with. Again, this isn't easy because the world wants to take away your intentionality. Everyone wants your attention. So you need to create systems and processes and boundaries so that you can be intentional for the moments that you choose to show up for.
Thank you. Very nice.
What's your definition of intentionality, Laura?
For me, it is I'm an individual who does like control. So it's having control of my time and choosing how I spend my time and having control of my focus, right? And being able to focus on what I want to focus on. So if we're looking at like a business, you could look ahead to the next quarter and think about what is it that we want to achieve as a company. And similarly, as a household, you could look ahead to the next quarter and think, what is it that we want to achieve with our kids? And at the end of the quarter, it's being able to say, yeah, we did that, right? I wanted to do this and I was able to check it off the list and we enjoyed it. And it was a memorable experience. And the kids enjoyed it as well. So it's all of those different things, doing all of those activities and again, being in the moment and deciding how I spend my time.
And I want to say, so by doing that in front of your children, for example, are you showcasing to your children how to live with intentionality?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, living with kids, we're living under microscopes. They're watching everything that we're doing. So, leading by example and seeing that, okay, we are, you know what? My mom and dad, they planned time with me to do like one on one. We planned it. We enjoyed our quality time together.
I'm going to go down a rabbit
Oh,
hole
okay.
now because that's what I do.
Okay.
And so we're just talking about being the role model to the kids, and something popped in my head as things do. And we're talking. I'm thinking back to my own childhood. Now I'm from a small town in Northern Ontario, and probably anyone that's from small towns in Ontario or could North America or Europe or whatever. Um, I grew up in a town of alcoholics, and I didn't know it at the time. But growing up, everything was all about drinking and going out, and how much beer you're drinking. And every social gathering was more beer, more beer, more beer, softball tournaments, hockey tournaments, all that kind of stuff coming into town. And when I say I'm from a small town, I am from a literal end of the road town. Shout out to Capriol. It molded me to who I am. But that's the town that I grew up in. Is everything, the whole lifestyle was surrounded by alcohol. And in my 20s, I remember sitting with a friend, and I had a very social and alcohol fueled 20s and into my 30s. And myself and this other individual, we were talking, and I always thought that the lifestyle we lived was the norm. And then we're like, maybe we're the outliers with the lifestyle that we're living, but it was the lifestyle that we grew up with. And that's why we thought it was normal. So, why I call this the rabbit hole is the life that you're living today, your kids are watching you. So, you're using that word, the role model again. You're the role model to the kids. So, don't you want to be living the best version of yourself so that your kids watch you and then grow up to be the best version of themselves because they watched you do that?
Alex, an intentional household starts with intentional relationships. How can spouses or partners set up a framework of support and communication to build this type of environment?
Oh, so many words there, Laura. Oh, okay. So I would say that one of the biggest things that we started out with, was that you have to set time aside to plan to live intentionally. You can't just choose to live intentionally by going, hey, I'm going to live intentionally when I wake up. So one thing that Laura and I do every year, and we do it through a strategic coach, is that we go on something called couples retreat, or couples connection is what it's called, which may sound like it's a romantic adventure away, and it's not. We use it as our annual planning meeting, and making sure the ship is sailing in the right direction and going over our goals and what we want to achieve in the year. So that's kind of, I would say, setting up a structure is setting up an annual retreat for you and your spouse and partner to determine what you want to achieve in the next 5-10 year increments. And then what you want to do then is have meetings after that throughout the year, check-in points to make sure that you're continuing to achieve what you want to achieve to move your, as we use, bigger future
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Yeah. So, and I think when you say retreat, it doesn't even have to be a formal retreat. It can be time away from your kids, just the two of you as a couple. Maybe you go somewhere overnight, so that you aren't distracted. And then you could put some sort of framework in place in advance of things that you are going to follow. So it could kind of be like you said, what is it we want to achieve in 5 years? And okay, in order to achieve that, what do you want to get started on in the next year? Okay. And then what are the steps that we are going to take to get started on that? So when we leave here, we have some action items to implement. And before we leave here, when is the next time we're going to meet? And so for the next year, are we going to meet every quarter? And if so, setting those dates so that you can, so that you have those dates set aside already. Because rather, if you go home and you just return to life, it's easy to miss those dates and not check up again. The other thing is,
Absolutely.
if you have friends who are interested in doing this as well, maybe, you could start doing it as a couple, but maybe you find another couple who's interested in doing it. And then the two couples can hold each other accountable and meet the next quarter, because it doesn't have to be a just the couple kind of thing. It can be very nice to have another couple there so that you can bounce ideas off of one another and support one another and just share what it is that you have achieved and hope to accomplish in the future.
I'm going to go down another rabbit hole because I enjoy my rabbit holes, but we talked about this before. So if you're Catholic, you actually have something, I'm actually going to screw up what it's called, but you basically go to school before you actually get married. So Catholics there's a school that you can go through. So you have these courses where you go through your parish and okay, you're getting married. Well, marriage isn't easy. So you need to learn how to operate together as a couple, as a spouse. And we didn't go through that process before we got married. But why I bring that up is what we're talking about is if you don't set these meetings and you don't set these goals, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So it's learning how to operate with your partner to achieve your higher goals, and that'll lead to the intentional life. And I can say that we've done 6 couples connections, and everything that we put down on paper has come to fruition. The only thing that hasn't is that we didn't buy a castle in Ireland. But that's because we chose
Our goals
not to pursue
changed. Yeah.
our goals
Yeah.
changed. I
Yeah.
think we did that.
We had a baby then when we
Yeah,
set that goal.
we only have one
Yeah.
baby then.
Yeah.
So we realized that no, we actually don't want that. But everything else we have achieved, including the intentional household concept for a company. So by creating a big goal and then working backwards and realizing the small steps you need to take to achieve the big goal, you will create astonishing things.
But the other thing I would say if we're talking about communication and working together is using those Colby and print tools. I feel like any couple who is, trying to operate together, just living life together, who doesn't have that information about themselves and one another, they are missing out significantly. So, if we are going to talk though about communication and what can help a couple or two people working together in a relationship, or operating a household, it is those tools, Colby and Print, which are Colby is a tool to help individuals to determine how they operate when they are free to be themselves, and Print, which is a motivational tool which can help with self-improvement, growth, development. I feel like at baseline, having that understanding of yourself and your partner just gives you an idea of how you operate, or how you can be your best self, what triggers you, because most people without that, really, if you don't see it on paper, you don't actually know or can communicate what does trigger me, or what does allow me to be my best self, or what forces me into being not my best self or unproductive,
or even why I'm like this in a certain
exactly.
situation.
Like,
And you don't, and your
yeah.
spouse or partner or a friend or
Mhm,
family is
mhm.
like, oh, so and so always gets like this. Now you can actually show, well, this is why
Yeah.
I get like this. And also what it does allow you to do as an individual, um, it's great if you have a spouse partner that understands what your triggers are, but you yourself, what you know your triggers are, guess what? You can remove yourself from triggering situations or avoid the triggering situations. Or in instances when you're in a triggering situation, oh, I'm in a triggering situation. This will pass. So I'm going to get through this, because you know why you're feeling or acting the way you are. And it just provides you with such clarity and a path to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at minimum, I feel like every couple needs to have an understanding of their Colby report and their print report. And I am certified in both print and Colby, and I am able to help clients interpret their own results.
So going back when we were talking about having retreats or those moments, and you brought in, hey, maybe you want to do that with another couple or a few other couples that you know, just to hold each other accountable. But the other power of this is the other people that you're with, if you choose to do it with more than one person, they're going to ask questions that you don't think of. And I want to give an example of one that happened to us when we went on one of ours. At that time, Laura was working as a dietitian at a major grocery chain. And one of the couples that we were partnered up with, the husband asked Laura a very direct question. She was just coming off of mat leave, and she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go back to work. And I don't really like what I do. And he said, well, if you don't like what you're doing, why are you going back to do the job? And it was a huge light bulb moment for both of us. And that goes back to my comments going, the world and society isn't going to allow you to live intentional, is that people wouldn't ask you that question going, why are you doing something you don't like doing? But how amazing is it actually when you hear that question, why are you doing something you don't like doing?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing something you don't like doing. And if you're doing something you don't like doing, then create a solution to get yourself out of that situation. But by having someone ask that question, it is so illuminating. So I'm going to ask everyone here that's listening right now, if you're doing something that you don't like doing, why are you doing it? Now, if your answer, whatever your answer is, it's an excuse. You are allowing yourself to continue to do this. There is a solution for you to stop doing what you do not like to do. So you shouldn't be doing anything that you don't want to do. There's a solution out there for you to stop doing that.
And actually, that the partner to the husband who asked that question was the one who made me realize that you can get someone to wash your dishes, because remember, her thing was she didn't want to do the dishes. And at that time, we were so new to having a family. I thought to myself, like, you can have someone to just like wash your dishes. And anyway, yes, you can have someone wash your dishes. And like her now, I don't have to wash my dishes. So thanks to her, she was the one who really introduced the idea.
And it works great, because now Laura gets to be her best self. And I want to throw in how Colby relates to that. Okay. So when Laura heard that individual say like, oh, I don't do my dishes, I don't like doing dishes, so I had someone else do that. Because Laura has is a 7 or 8 follow through on the Colby. Laura's an 8 follow through with the Colby program. That means when she hears something, she takes action with it quickly, and she's able to overcome the obstacles that are put in place. And she's able to overcome them, create a system around it, and she did. Like she did all of that. Now my follow through is a 2. So that's how we're able to work well together, in that I'm a great ideas person because I have a 9 quick start, but my follow through is poor. So when I have a good idea, Laura then takes it. And I have to be careful sometimes, because sometimes I may say an idea and I actually don't want to move forward with it. But if Laura hears it, she'll start moving forward with it. She's able to take it and then move the idea forward. And why I bring this up is that, if you're stuck somewhere, find the person to help get you out of it. Because there's always, and this is where the Colby and the print are great, is that, again, when I go back to the question is, why are you doing something you hate? You may not have the capabilities to get yourself out of there. But guess what? There is someone that can help you get out of that situation. So that's, if the answer is, when you're stuck in something going, well, I can't do this. Well, guess what? There is someone out there that can do that for you. and it's identifying the person to get you out of that situation. So there is a solution to every problem. You shouldn't be doing anything that you don't want to do.
That's such a good point. And that is part of the reason why intentional household is a hand holding process. Because some people do have low follow through, right? So they don't take action on what it is they want to achieve. And I realize this as a dietitian meeting with clients one on one. They might have great expectations and goals and be energized in a meeting or appointment and then go home and not take any action. But by making the intentional household process a hand holding process, we get everything done when we are together in the appointment, so that when we say goodbye to each other for that hour, you aren't left doing homework and um only that like you won't do, right? So it means that we can keep the process moving along so that the next time we meet, the things have already been done because we completed it in the last appointment. Okay, next appointment, we can keep chugging along to the next step to achieve the goal. And so that's one of the reasons why it is effective. And it's because you have someone holding your hand to ensure that you do achieve success and help you follow through to the end so that there is closure. And ultimately, you're hiring that person who can support you.
And that's where, when we came up with the intentional household concept, I said to Laura, you need to have the hand holding part, because I looked at it as the person that actually wouldn't complete the task. Because if Laura gave me a long list of tasks, hey, Alex, if you do this, 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 and this, you'll have this intentional freedom. I would look at those tasks and go, oh, roadblock, obstacle, and then I would not do it, and I would go see a squirrel and move along to something else. So that is where you get the confidence from Laura to move forward, because she's filling in the gaps for you. And again, it's okay to have these gaps. There is no school for running a household like an organization. We're the school.
So I want to get into how individuals are busy juggling. I don't even like saying balancing because I feel like it's a constant imbalance, but how individuals are constantly juggling their careers and their home life. And how is it possible to do both of those with intention? So you are someone who's been, you're a real estate broker and you sell real estate, which requires evenings, weekends. It seems like it's impossible to juggle both a real estate career and a home life. So can you tell us more about that and how you have been able to find some sort of, let's say, balance, as I don't like to call it, while doing so?
And I'll also add, not only this is not a toot to my own horn, but I want to say, just to put this in perspective, in 2022, I won the award for the most transactions for an individual Remax agent in Canada. So why I put that in perspective is that if you listen to the last episode, where I talked about where you looked me in the eye with your right into my soul and said, Alex, we need you in this family. This is after we had the birth of our first child, which would have been in 2017. We need you. You need to be part of this family. And that's because I was working evenings and weekends and doing whatever I needed to do to get the sale and be successful. And then you just told me that you need me there. Well, when you're raising a family, you want to be around in evenings and weekends. So this is a conundrum. How are you going to be a successful real estate agent, but also be a successful husband, a successful father? And earlier in this episode, I said, any problem that you have, there's a solution out there. You just have to think of it and then bring in the people to help you execute that solution. So my answer to your question is that the first thing to live intentional with the career is to determine your definition of success. So my definition of success before was sales, revenue, profit. I changed the rules. My definition of success came that, okay, those things are still important to me, absolutely. But the rule of the game is I have to be here evenings, weekends, and present with my family. So then you have to change the way you operate to win the game by those rules. That's all you need to do. It's that simple, which is also complicated at the same time, but make that your priority going, okay, if you want to be intentional, well, that's your new rule. Okay, what do you need to be intentional? And for me to be intentional was that I need to be present mentally and physically evenings and weekends. And that's how I'm going to be the best version of myself to my family. Now, I think, Laura, you're going to just ask me a quick question.
Well, no, I was just going to add to that because you talked about the business side of it. And then I'm thinking of the home life aspect. So what I did, or like what we did for you at home was, one of the things I didn't want to do anymore at some point was grocery shop, if I can recall. And I remember you saying, when you were available, maybe on a Sunday afternoon, like, hey, I can go to the grocery store. And I remember saying, no, right? Like, you're not even home very often. And if you are going to be home, I don't want you spending your time grocery shopping when you could be spending your time with our kids, right? So what can we do to alleviate the grocery shopping? Okay, well, we do online groceries now, and they get delivered to the house. So that was an easy strategy to remove that task from our plate, because otherwise that would have probably for you taken you an hour of your day, which is...
And by the way, I still can't find things in the grocery store.
You still can't find things, but like for you to take 1 hour out of your available time at home, 1 hour is actually a lot.
It is.
Right?
It is.
And then we had this growing list of to-do items around the house.
Yeah, can I talk about this?
Yeah, what is it?
Okay. So this goes into, so I talked about how creating your rules for you to be successful. And my rule was that, okay, I want still top sales numbers, profit, revenue, all that kind of stuff. But I have to do that in a realm that I'm present physically with my family on evenings and weekends. Well, what Laura was alluding to is that there are still responsibilities that you have, whether it's in business and with your family. And I found Saturdays really stressful. So I felt like I was two people on Saturday. So on Saturday, there are still requirements where people are reaching out to me because that's the only time they can speak is on the weekend, or there are different errands that need to be run for the household. And it was really hard for me to fit that in while also being that great husband and that great father. So what we did is we actually have a Saturday nanny. So Saturday is my day to go. If I have to do appointments, I have to talk to people, I have to do work, if I have to do anything for the household. Alex, you have Saturday now to complete that. We'll call that, and I'm going to use a strategic coach term, this is a work/household buffer day. So it's a day for me to get tasks done. And Laura's with the kids, being present with the kids on Saturday. She does the best to schedule any other activities for Saturday, whether it's swimming lessons or dance class, those kind of things. Those are Saturday-based activities. And then she has the Saturday nanny to help out with the family. But what that does is that allows me to be fully present physically and mentally on Sunday. Because now I know is, okay, Saturday, I got all those kind of to-do list, outstanding things done best I can. Sunday, okay, family time, I'm going to be present with the family. So it's these little things that you put into your household to allow you to live with that intentionality, because that was an overflow of things that needed to be done. And Saturdays were incredibly stressful. And that was Saturday, I was not being the best version of myself.
Yeah, that's true. But a couple things I want to say about that, because when we tell people that you have a free day on Saturday, a lot of people come back and ask if I have my own day or what I get, right? Like, it doesn't sound very fair in some people's eyes that Alex has a free day and I don't. So one thing that we know about Alex through Print, the assessment tool, is that Alex needs to be, his motivation in life is to be happy and enjoy life. So he needs that free time so that he can enjoy himself, or get lost, go for a bike ride, that kind of thing. I don't need to be happy and enjoy life. I have different motivators in life, and I don't want an off day on the weekend. I want to be around for the kids, right? Like, I didn't have any work that I needed to get done on Saturday or Sunday, and I want to be there on Saturday. So that, sure, if I wanted a free day, could I? Yes, that's something that we could implement, but it's not something that I
But
want
I'd
to
say
implement.
you do. You
But
do.
I was going to say, instead, I want to be able to visit my friend out of town and sleep over once in a while, like whenever I want. And we do that, right? So it's we come together and kind of share our needs and our wants and make it happen and work together and use the systems that we have and the people who can support us to make it happen.
Yeah, you got to build strategy around that. And I'll hammer down on that, because we actually had this conversation this weekend. Yes, I have the Saturday day to myself. So someone may be jumping and be like, oh, that sounds great. I want a day for myself. It's not one-sided.
Yeah.
If you're taking a day for yourself, your partner or spouse, they have to have some version of that. Again, it doesn't have to be a full day. You know, as Laura says, she didn't take a full day, but again, this specific Friday, tomorrow, actually, Laura is going to be going away, and she has her monthly sleepover at her girlfriend's house. And she plays tennis at various times. She may treat herself in an afternoon because she builds that in her schedule. I'm different. I don't operate like that. I need mine all in one day. I don't like piecemeal here and there. So you have to have that conversation with your spouse partner going, okay, I want some free time to get things done for me or family, or with things that are important for me, but you need that too.
Yeah.
How do we create this in our schedule so we both get that time? And that's incredibly important, because if you aren't working on yourself, how are you going to be the best version of yourself to your spouse, partner, family, everything like that? It all starts with you as an individual. You need to put the work in to be the best version of yourself so that you can be that person for that other person. And then vice versa. Laura, another key part of building an intentional household is knowing when and how to bring in outside help. What should families look for in hiring support that aligns with their values and goals?
Well, first of all, if you're looking for someone who aligns with your own values, the question is, as a couple, have you determined what your values are? Have you written them down and shared them with one another? So I would say that is the first step. And then the second step would be using those values or principles to use them as part of the hiring process. So when you're hiring someone in an interview, you are communicating those values to that potential hire, and you are using examples, and you are asking if they live by those values themselves. And you're using those values as you check in with these individuals and you're doing performance reviews. You're constantly reminding them of the values, and you're ensuring that they're living by them day to day while in your household, right? And then the other question was around what it is, what kind of help you need, or so the first thing I would do is identify on paper, writing down exactly what it is that you don't want to do anymore, right? So listing all of those tasks you are responsible for, both physically and mentally, and then going through one by one all of those tasks that drain you. By looking at those
and be honest here.
And be honest. Yeah. Be like, get everything out there. And by identifying those draining tasks, you will be able to come up with a theme. If you don't do that, you could hire the wrong person. So I'm going to say, everyone we know, when they're hiring help, they have kids, they hire a nanny. So we hired a nanny, right? If I would have done this right from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have hired a nanny, and I probably would have hired a housekeeper from the very beginning. So it's actually identifying the exact person you need based on all of those tasks that you want to complete. So writing that down on paper and then being true to yourself during the hiring process, that is why you are hiring someone, right? Not being flexible and conforming to the candidate, their needs, and their schedule, what tasks they're willing to do. No. If they're not willing to do what you need, they are not the right person for you, right?
That I was just going to jump in and say that,
Mhm.
because the idea, like if you're looking for a nanny, but there's some housekeeping duties that you want, you can find people that are willing to do some or both of those things. But if you don't put it down on paper and communicate with that individual,
Mhm.
when you try to implement those things after the fact,
Yeah.
that's where the conflict and friction come.
Yeah.
And they're like, I wasn't hired to do this. But if you had that conversation up front, you would have never hired that person to begin with. That's why this is so, so important to write down the things that you don't want, be honest with yourself, and then hold your ground.
Yeah.
Because again, people are going to push back. People are there to be the intentional partner to you, to allow you're going to work together in collaboration to build your intentional life.
That's right. And then one other thing I would say about that is, if you're going to communicate what you're doing with friends or family, not be swayed by the opinions of friends or family, because what they may do in their household, what they may want, what they may need, may be very different than what you want and need. And so you shouldn't be changing your needs based on their opinions.
And you've seen it.
I've seen it. Exactly.
You've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And you've gone through the full process, and the people have listened to you and didn't listen to the outside forces.
Yeah.
And they were so happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they got exactly what they wanted. Laura, for listeners who want to build a more intentional home, what are a few easy, practical changes they can make right away?
Okay, well, a couple of things that you can start doing right now are exactly the thing that I mentioned about identifying all of the tasks you're responsible for in your household, and then going through those tasks one by one to identify what drains your energy, whether it's physical time or it drains your energy because you truly do not like doing it. The other thing that you could do,
and I'll jump in.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
And then communicate that with your spouse or partner.
Yes.
Because some of those things on the list, they may be like, no big deal. I'll just do it.
Okay, that is true, because I don't like unloading the dishwasher. And I had, made it very clear to you, Alex, that I don't like unloading the dishwasher. And you're like, well, that's no big deal. I can do
these
that,
are small,
right?
Little
so that was
things.
just a very small thing that we were able to do. But the other thing that I would say is, first, I think about, well, if I didn't have to do these, like, if I had the time, what would I do instead, right? What are some things that I want to do, right? Are there hobbies or skills I want to start or classes I want to start? Something like that, because that'll give you the why.
Yeah.
Right.
You need the energizing time. Like you have to give a reason why you're going to get rid of these.
What's the reason and what energizes me? Right. So for me, if it was, I would love to start doing tennis lessons, but I don't have the time. It's like, oh, wait, but I have all these things that I can remove. Okay. So now I have the motivation to remove it from my plate.
Can I add another one as well?
Yeah, please.
That I think is easy.
Yes.
And we've talked about it before. So every Friday, already in the calendar, we have a babysitter come in that's already pre-looking after our kids. And we call that our free time. And that gives us a night off a week from putting the kids down, because I got to tell you, putting the kids to bed is absolutely exhausting. So if I get one night off a week from that, that allows me to get through the next week. But it allows us to either have a date night, or maybe, for example, this week you're going to see your friend. You have these things to look forward to every week. And now you just got a system in place. Okay, every Friday night, so-and-so is coming to look after the kids. We can go do something.
That's true, because outsourcing putting our kids to bed isn't something that we're willing to do. We want to be there for our kids, but there are strategies that we can do to make it tolerable, right? Or to make it easier. So for us, it's having that Friday at the end of the week to look forward to, just to give us a little bit of a break. And we don't feel guilty doing it, because we spend, it's like Sunday's our family day. We spend a lot of time with our kids, right? So having that Friday night free from putting them down is not a big deal for us, but it does take the pressure off from the remaining 6 days of the week when we do have to put them down to bed. So it's finding those simple strategies that you could implement. Another one I'm just going to say quickly is, if bedtime is hard for you and you're often doing it on your own, or if you have a partner who travels, maybe it's just thinking of a even a tween in the neighborhood. Maybe there's a tween who's a sibling to your child's friend, or there's like a tween at the school or in the neighborhood, paying them some money you're still there to manage your kids, to put your kids down, but maybe they're there as well. It doesn't cost a lot of money. They could come for a couple hours and it just takes the load off.
Exactly. Yeah. And that creating that whole network of people to help you out.
Okay. So we've talked about what it means to be living with intention, running a household with intention, and what others can do to run their lives in a similar manner. In our next episode, what are we going to talk about, Alex?
We're going to talk about, does your nanny drive you crazy? And if they do, well, we got some solutions for that. So tune in the next episode. Does your nanny drive you crazy? And we'll help you get through that.
And if you want to follow along, check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Intentional Household, or check out our website at intentionalhousehold.com.
And to listen to all our podcast episodes, we're available at your favorite podcast app, wherever you listen to those.